Welcome to the Christian Science Monitor for Friday, December 18th. My name is Pam, and let's get started. Why Traditional Retailers Have the Checkout Blues by Lawrence Belsey. In Boston, Cara Salvatore loves a local corner bodega in Brooklyn, its specialty food items, and the cashiers who work there. But the writer and online entrepreneur rarely goes there anymore because its aisles feel too narrow and cramped to maintain social distance from other people. Instead, Miss Salvatore's purchases happen online for just about everything. I don't love letting somebody else pick what produce I get, Ms. Salvatore says. Even the writer's parents in Maryland are grocery shopping online, which I never expected. They're in their 70s. It's a similar story in Tacoma, Washington, for Rick and Sarah Daniel, MBA graduates who are not working as they care for Mr. Daniel's ailing parents. Men's deodorant? A click away on Amazon Prime. Bulk household items from Costco? A monthly delivery via Instant Cart, an online delivery service. The only in person shopping the couple still does is for fresh food. The conundrum is the couch. The Daniels want to get one so they don't have to rely solely on their antique sofa from the 1800s that needs reupholstering. They looked for new sofas online but feel uncomfortable buying sight unseen, even with all the fancy 3D imaging on furniture websites. Yet they feel unsafe going into a store to sit on a sofa. We would prefer to wait and shop for that in person so we can see and touch, says Mrs. Daniels. Welcome to Pandemic Shopping 2020, where consumers constrained by health concerns and state and local restrictions on face to face commerce have turned most shopping into a sterile, contactless experience. We're still buying stuff, and when it comes to office chairs and web cameras, we're buying more than ever, thanks in part to federal stimulus dollars. And while that stimulus effect is fading, Christmas sales should provide a welcome boost to retailers. But this year's festive shopping season will probably not be a miracle on 34th Street. For struggling brick and mortar retailers, as the biggest gain will go to online platforms like Amazon, whose revenues are already up by more than a third this year. While Black Friday online sales surged by nearly a quarter compared to 2019, traffic at physical stores plunged by more than half, according to separate surveys. The near term outlook for physical stores is dire. As many as 25,000 could close this year in the United States, nearly triple the closures last year. According to Coresight Research, which also expects a quarter of America's 1,000 malls to close in the next 3 to 5 years, mall stalwarts like J.C. Penney, Neiman Marcus, and Brooks Brothers have all filed for bankruptcy. The silver lining to all this disruption is that consumers and retailers have been jolted out of their old habits, forcing them to experiment with new ways of shopping. Some of these changes will permanently transform the way we shop. Much as the advent of department stores did around the time of the Civil War, the adoption of indoor shopping malls after World War II, and the birth of e-commerce in 1990s. The difference is that most of those transformations enhanced or at least preserved the social aspect of shopping. In the present era of change, that social aspect has all but evaporated. Everyone agrees that online shopping will get bigger, more efficient, and more streamlined, and that the ease of ordering from home will be irresistible. But the future of the physical shop, from the big box outlet near the interstate to the independent home decor store on Main Street, is less clear. Will shopping still be something that we do together, a form of leisure and entertainment? Will it ever be fun again? As a Wall Street retail analyst, Greg Melich spends a lot of time figuring out how and where U.S. consumers are spending their dollars and which companies are best positioned to ring up their sales. He's tracked the meteoric growth and in digital commerce during the pandemic, Take Walmart, the nation's biggest retailer. Online sales rose 79% in the third quarter. Still, Mr. Melick reckons that shopping as entertainment will be back because most of us want to go back to shopping in person when it feels safe to do so again. I'm not a believer that all retail goes online. People are social animals, he said. The easing of the COVID-19 pandemic would provide short-term relief for shoppers who want to resume their social habits and indulge what retail experts call revenge shopping. Ms. Daniels wants to go window shopping with her mother again. Mr. Daniel wants to browse book and antique stores. There's things we're definitely looking forward to getting back to, he said. Even after the pandemic is over, however, four shopping and lifestyle trends will drive the future of retail, according to Mr. Melick, a senior managing director at Evercore ISI, an investment bank. Two of these trends are familiar: online shopping and a hybrid of online and on-site purchases. The other two are more tied to the pandemic and thus more speculative, but they could prove far-reaching in how we live and shop. One is nesting at home. The other is fleeing destiny, moving from crowded cities to less crowded ones or to the suburbs. Nesting is likely to continue, Mr. Melick believes, because many Americans prefer to spend more time working from home and are also making fewer trips to restaurants and other public forms of entertainment. As a result, they're spending more on their home, creating a surge in sales for hardware and electronic stores, online furniture retailers like Wayfair, and even small entrepreneurs like Pac Matthews, whose Columbia, Missouri firm sells office chairs meant to accommodate folks who prefer sitting cross-legged. When the pandemic hit, he fretted that sales would drop for handmade chairs that cost $980 and up. Instead, Mr. Matthews saw sales double. Under a deal he has with Google, he offers chairs at a discount to its employees working from home. The pandemic boom has allowed him to move production from a shared market space to a dedicated facility. We're helping folks make the home working environment its healthiest, he says. The other trend is less certain. Early evidence points to some residents exiting New York and San Francisco. Other research finds a surge in temporary moves by urbanites who may be moving to less dense locations to wait out the virus. However, should that movement outlast the pandemic, it could parallel the national exodus to newly built suburbs after World War II. These two trends could end up boosting retail sales. For roughly 2 decades, consumers have devoted an increasing share of their disposable income to experiences rather than physical items sold in stores. The pandemic has restricted or shut down venues that cram people together, whether it be airlines and restaurants or concert halls and movie theaters. So if we continue to hunker down at home, then more of our disposable income could wind up in the hands of retailers. That would be fine for Gustave Baton, a baby boomer and business development director at Northeastern University in Boston. Since the start of the pandemic, he's grown wary of crowded spaces like movie theaters and is sticking with his TV for now. I have a large enough screen that I can kind of feel what the big screen experience is at home. Not so fast, says Michael Upton, a software engineer in North Chelmsford, Massachusetts, who graduated from college a year ago. I definitely would go see movies more than anything, he says. It's not just movie theaters that he misses during the pandemic, the community experience that we have lost. They're a big part of human nature that we enjoy doing. Imagine going to an amusement park when nobody's there. The challenge for retailers is to understand what kind of communal shopping experiences will attract consumers in the future. Some are doubling down online and hybrid options, knowing that even after the pandemic recedes, there will be some who prefer to shop that way. It's easier for me to click a few buttons on my phone and get something in 2 days than to take an Uber to the grocery store, says Grace Kim, a sophomore at Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. Even buying clothes online has become easier, she says, because sites like Boohoo help customers answer questions about specific brands, sizes that fit them, the curvature of their hips and belly, and their preference in loose versus tight fitting clothes. Miss Kim still likes shopping in person, but in the future, it would be less frequent. On a recent evening, retail consultant David Bishop placed an online order for curbside pickup at a Target store near Chicago. Curbside pickup, once a niche offering, has become a way of life for many pandemic shoppers wary of exposure to the coronavirus inside stores. It has also been a lifeline for retailers that would otherwise have had to shut down during state and local lockdowns. When Mr. Bishop's notification came that his order was ready, he clicked on an app saying he was on his way and drove to the store. He parked, and a minute later, his order of nearly 2 dozen grocery items had been brought out to his car. So it's almost like magical, he says. The next day, he worked with another grocer in Minneapolis, where the average wait time for a curbside pickup was 5 minutes. 5 minutes may or may not be a long time to wait in a checkout line, but in the competitive world of hybrid shopping, it can feel like an eternity to wait 5 minutes in your car, especially if you have a young child and you know that other retailers can do the job in a minute. At that level, you start getting to a point where a customer can get frustrated, said Mr. Bishop, who is a partner at Brick Meets Click, a grocery consultancy in Barrington, Illinois. To pull off curbside magic, Target and other retailers are investing heavily in sophisticated geological and other technology that lets staffers know when the customer's car is heading to the store, when it enters the parking lot, and when it's approaching the pickup area. Going a step further, Amazon has pioneered cashierless stores, selling meals and snack food in cities like Seattle, Chicago, New York, and San Francisco. When shoppers take an item off the shelf, the system of cameras and sensors automatically charges it to their Amazon account. If they put it back on the shelf, the system credits their account. Once the system scans the Amazon app on the shopper's phone, there's nothing else to scan. No special grocery carts or checkout lines before they leave the store. Of course, such technology involves huge investments by multinational corporations, which raise privacy and competitive issues. Location tracking already happens under the radar, but in the hands of big companies, it may draw additional government scrutiny. In 2019, Facebook paid a $5 billion fine for deceiving customers about their control over privacy. A House of Representatives subcommittee recently concluded that Amazon, along with Facebook, Apple, and Google, holds monopoly power. It found that Amazon holds sway over half or more of U.S. online retail sales by dominating the third-party sellers on its site. Amazon argues it isn't a monopoly and has no incentive to undermine the sellers on its platforms. Some shoppers are also wary of Amazon's growing clout. A recent survey of shoppers found that a third believe the company uses questionable practices, though nearly all respondents agreed that the company puts its consumers first. I try really hard not to buy from Amazon because I feel that it's really hurting our small communities, says Betsy Morris, a retired baby boomer in Huntington Beach, California. I always look locally first, and if I can't find it, I'll go to Amazon. Just as the pandemic is global, so too are the trends at work in the retail sector. Many of the pressure facing Americans' brick and mortar stores are also roiling those in rich countries in Europe and Asia. For hints of what the future may hold, retail experts say, look to China. That's partly because Chinese consumers have embraced digital commerce more quickly than Americans have. Leapfrogging the mall era to shop on their smartphones, China was also the first to experience the coronavirus and among the first to emerge from it. China is now into the new normal, as it were, the first country in the recovery phase of COVID, and it serves as a signpost to the rest of the world, says Kiana Parekh, a Hong Kong-based retail expert for Bain & Company. Several retail trends in China are recognizable to U.S. retailers. The move from in-store to online sales, growth in spending on health and wellness, everything from fresh fruit to sporting goods, and what Mr. Perrick calls a flight to value. Globally, luxury brand sales are down this year. In China, they continue to grow, but cheaper local brands are growing even faster. Chinese online retailers, led by Behance Alibaba, are also trying to make internet shopping fun by live streaming celebrities selling goods. Live streaming product demonstrations and celebrity endorsements is nothing new, but China, where nearly 1 in 4 retail sales are done online, has turned it into a juggernaut. Last year, on November 11th, China's so called Singles Day for online shopping, retailers sold about $60 billion worth of goods, said Mr. Perrick. That's more than Amazon sells in an entire month. And live stream sales accounted for 7% of the total. This year, on Singles Day, which actually stretched over several days, sales doubled to 120 billion, and live streaming made up 10% of the total. Live stream companies feature personalities such as Li Jiaqi, China's king of lipstick, and even retired U.S. basketball legend Irving Magic Johnson, who sold hemp and cannabidiol-based creams on Alibaba's small platform. As in China, U.S. retailers are trying to make the online experience easier, more efficient, and less intimidating, including for personalized items such as clothing and groceries. Still, many consumers report that the fun is still missing. Ms. Morris, the retiree in Huntington Beach, still insists on grocery shopping in person. Honestly, that's the only social interaction I have. It's fun, she says. It should be even more fun when all the stores are able to reopen, she adds. It has been like a year that we haven't gone to a home goods store or a home decor store. We're all going to go out and say, what is everyone doing? What do houses look like? Is gray out for a paint color? Mr. Botan, the baby boomer in Boston, offers a different perspective. I have never, ever liked shopping, he says. Going to the mall, looking for this or that, I hate that with a passion. So for him, ordering online for home delivery is something of a relief. But even he waxes poetic over the hours he spent in bookstores like Barnes and Nobles. You have a Starbucks there. You can browse, he said. You can go with your kids and read a book. They're not selling a book, they're selling an experience. Ms. Salvatore of Brooklyn, the writer who buys and sells almost exclusively online, sells artsy homemade picture frames at Desk Shaped. But they, Ms. Salvatore identifies as non binary, dream of opening a physical shop in the future, a place where shoppers can linger and browse. Online retailers put all those algorithms in place to try to show you things that you wouldn't have discovered otherwise, they say. But I don't think it compares to the experience of walking into a store and seeing things you wouldn't have seen otherwise. That's hardly an old fashioned view. One of the myths in retail is that because younger consumers are comfortable with digital technologies, they're less interested in shopping in person. In fact, researchers have found that by a wide margin, both millennials and the generation born after 1995 prefer brick and mortar shopping to buying online. I'm not really buying into online grocery shopping, says Miss Upton, the software engineer. There's something very tactile about food, to see what you're eating. It's perhaps the melding of physical and online shopping, the hybrid of multi-channel category that could spur some of the biggest retail innovations over the next few years. For most of history, people could only shop one way, in a physical location. In the 1870s, Montgomery Ward introduced catalog shopping to the general public, a novelty made possible by the crisscrossing of railroads across the continent. In the 1990s, e-commerce emerged on the back of the internet, a technology seeded by military research dollars. Now, in the pandemic era, retailers like Target are working on making ordering online and picking up at the store a seamless process, and that could be just the start. Other hybrid models will emerge, especially as retailers wring delays out of the system. says Kirthi Kamana, Executive Director of the Retail Management Institute at Santa Clara University in California. Amazon, which already provides free 2-day delivery to Prime members, now offers 1-day delivery nationwide for a free and same-day delivery on select items in several cities. Its Amazon Fresh grocery service lets shoppers pick a 2 or 3 hour time slot for delivery. Yummy! A hybrid grocer in Los Angeles is going one better. It now offers to deliver groceries to select LA neighborhoods and suburbs within 30 minutes of an online order. The fee is $6.99 for a minimum order of $14.99, or free if you spend $125 or more. And in China, several delivery companies are also moving to 30-minute delivery for online orders, says Mr. Parekh. Stores will increasingly become places to showcase products rather than to stock inventory, says Mr. Kalyanam. Online retailers will recreate their online persona in a physical space. Think Apple stores in Lululemon. And consumers will have multiple ways to buy their goods. Stores might not even carry inventory, but promise to deliver your purchase from a nearby warehouse in half an hour. Fast forward 3 or 4 years, you're going to have 5, 6 different big familiar ways of shopping, says Mr. Kalyanma. Shopping as fun will come back, and brick and mortar will be stronger than ever before for shopping as fun. Well, this next article is titled Coda's Shelter, Designer Bas Timmer Creates for People Who Have No Home by Ann Pintos Rodriguez. In Amsterdam, Dutch clothing designer Bas Timmer has seen some tears in his line of work, but they have mostly been tears of joy. During a visit to Cape Town, South Africa, Mr. Timmer met a woman who had lived her adult life on the streets and was often cold and uncomfortable. Despite her disabilities, she managed to get by. While there was little he could do to change her circumstances, he could offer her a bit of warmth. So he gifted her one of his creations, a windproof and waterproof jacket that he has designed called the Shelter Suit, and taught her how to use it. When he checked on her a few days later, Mr. Timmer says she broke down crying. She was finally warm and cozy, he said. With over 12,000 such suits distributed by Mr. Timmer's Shelter Suits Foundation since 2014, he has had several such interactions, though none quite as emotional as his encounter in Cape Town. The suits have been handed out to people experiencing homelessness in the Netherlands, Lesbos, Greece, Sarajevo, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Edinburgh, Scotland, and London, as well as New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and a few other cities in the United States. The foundation distributes its suits to people in need free of charge. While the Shelter Suit does not address the root causes of homelessness, it provides much needed comfort to those on the street. Every human being deserves warmth, protection, and dignity, says Mr. Timmer. The Shelter Suit comes with a sleeping bag that attaches to the lower edge of the jacket, which ensures full body protection against harsh temperatures. The exterior is made of high-quality leftover tent fabric donated by Tenkate Outdoor Fabrics, while the insides are typically lined with old sleeping bags donated or collected at festivals after they've been cleaned. Imagine being homeless during a Dutch winter, having to sleep outside in the bitter cold and pouring rain, says Mr. Timmer. He has also designed a lighter version of the suit called the Shelter Bag for use in warm weather. A personal reason. Mr. Timmer was spurred to develop the Shelter Suit in 2014 when the father of 2 of his dear friends died of hypothermia on the streets. At the time, he had just started working as a designer of warm winter wear and felt compelled to create a product that would prevent such needless deaths. I had my fears initially, but my mother encouraged me to follow my heart. She motivated me to design the first Shelter Suit. Mr. Timmer says he inherited his creativity and entrepreneurial spirit from his parents, both of whom worked in the textile industry. In the Netherlands, some 40,000 people have registered as rough sleepers of varied circumstances. Poverty played a key role, but so does mental illness in many cases. This number does not include young people unwilling to register as homeless or asylum seekers refused legal refuge. During the pandemic, the need for more shelter space became acute. While shelters did not want to encourage rough sleeping, there simply wasn't enough room inside. Shelter facilities began requesting the suits to protect those they could not accommodate. The priority became to shelter the homeless where they were, says Mr. Timmers. Since March, the Shelter Suit Foundation has distributed nearly 2,000 shelter suits and shelter bags to shelters and homeless people in the Netherlands and South Africa. Currently, Shelter Suits operates two manufacturing facilities: the original factory in Enschede in the Netherlands and a newer one in Cape Town. The Shelter Suit Foundation is also exploring partnerships in the US, United Kingdom, and Australia. The Dutch factory has 14 employees, most of whom are refugees or people who have experienced homelessness. All donations to the Shelter Suit Foundation go to pay the salaries of the shelter suit makers. Besides job training, we also provide them with Dutch language lessons and help them settle into Dutch society, Mr. Timmers said. The factory in South Africa has several local seamstresses, most having experienced joblessness and homelessness. When we completed the pilot production of 250 suits in South Africa, one of the seamstresses was sobbing, said Mr. Timmers. She shared that she finally had the money to buy shoes for her son so he could play football. Imagine how much we can multiply this happiness when we scale up with the right partners. Gearing up production. A shelter bag costs 1/3 of a shelter suit to make in the Netherlands, about £100 or $120 in South Africa. The bag can be made for 30, I don't know, it's pounds or euros. We needed to be in a country with a lower cost of production to manufacture on a large scale, says Mr. Timmer. After having partnered with UNICEF, the Red Cross, and other global organizations on a small scale, Mr. Timmer now hopes to be able to gradually meet greater demand. Femke van Stratum, a communications advisor, evaluated the shelter suit model as part of her master's thesis work in psychology and communication sciences at the University of Twente in the Netherlands. In my research, I found that overall, social workers in the Netherlands were positive about the shelter suits being given to homeless people, she said. But there were some concerns about people trading or selling their suits. To minimize this risk, the social workers suggested that the suits should only be given to those who cannot sleep at a shelter, like those with a dog or those who do not want to sleep at a shelter for various reasons. A cooperative concept? To address some concerns about distributing shelter suits directly, Mr. Timmer plans to pilot a new distribution model developed after discussions with a Dutch shelter organization and local homeless people. Under this model, shelters retain ownership of the suit and can add optional trackers to be able to check in on and make deliveries to individuals on the street. We want to redefine what shelter means to the homeless person, says Mr. Timmer. We aim to make the shelter suit a service rather than a product. This may help shelter facilities build relationships with clients. I want to make the shelter suit a tool to integrate the homeless into society. Mr. Timmer was recently recognized by Time magazine as one of their next generation leaders for 2020. I want to protect every homeless person in the world in a socially and environmentally responsible manner, he says. Well, friends, that concludes the Christian Science Monitor for Friday, December 18th. My name is Pam. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Please stay safe, be blessed, do what you can do to make today a really great day.